my channel, Persephone's Reign. Thank you for joining me again. If you are returning, I appreciate the continued support. And if it's your first time here, welcome. I'm really glad to have you. I just wanted to go ahead and create a video about the topic of settling. I think that this has been on my mind for a while now because I am in this place where I'm transitioning out of old habits and old ways of doing things into more new, adventurous and riskier ways of doing things, because I am at this point where I am looking to embrace change within my life as a natural occurrence. I think that settling is a great topic to discuss because I think a lot of people are in transition right now. I think that's the vibe that I'm getting, that this is a period of transition for a lot of folks. And I think that it's good to know how to kind of make those shifts in our lives. I'm going to talk about my personal experience, and hopefully in listening to me, this might be useful to you as well in your life. And just like last time, I'm going to be painting while we talk. I've already gone ahead and painted my background. So I painted the canvas kind of like this emerald green color. And I'm going to be painting a self-portrait today. I've done a few self-portraits in the past. I think about 4 or 5 so far. And I really enjoy looking at them. It's interesting to see how I view myself each time. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to start by mixing together some browns because, I mean, look at me. So, yes, I'm using paper plates for this because I find that when I buy those palettes from Michaels, they tend to get dried paint on them and I can never really get it off. So I end up tossing them after 1 or 2 uses. So with this, I just am going to do the same thing. Might as well use a paper plate. So I'm just mixing together a couple browns. And I'm not someone who does a lot of mixing and configuring of the colors to some specific science. I'm just really making a mess here and seeing what comes out. So on the topic of settling, that's what we're talking about today, right? So this experience for me starts with a friendship. I had been friends with this woman for a few years. And our friendship was generally pretty good. She was one of those people who I couldn't wait to talk to at the end of the day. Funny, engaging, charismatic, just an all-around cool chick. And we were into a lot of the same things. I noticed after a while, though, that we would get into these fights pretty regularly. And whenever we got into these fights, we would stop talking. We'd be out of communication for sometimes weeks, months on end. And I could never quite pinpoint why it was that we'd get into these fights. It would always be something different, but it happened quite frequently. But every time, after a short while, we'd be back in communication again, and it was kind of like we kiss and make up and move on from there. Last year, we had another one of those falling outs that we so often have. And I found the argument to be pretty petty. And it was more of a disagreement than an argument to me. I really did try to avoid arguing at the time, at least as far as I can recall. But lo and behold, we were fighting again. And I reached out after the disagreement and didn't hear from her again. She didn't respond to me. Recently, I heard from her again. And we carried on a brief but fairly casual conversation. And I was a little unsettled by this. Although I was excited to hear from her, it was as if the events of the past year hadn't even occurred. And it felt a little disrespectful. So, when I reached out to have this conversation with her and tell her how I had been feeling, she never responded. Which left me even more confused, frustrated, and distraught even. Why had she reached out only to disappear again? So I started to take stock of the person that I was becoming and the types of relationships that I want to be in currently and that I want to attract moving forward. And it made me think, did I want to continue to nurture relationships that were chaotic and felt cyclical? No, I didn't. I no longer wanted to put my energy into connections that weren't growing. They were just repeating the same patterns over and over again. So, folks, this is where I pick up the canvas and just get a little closer to it, because I like to focus on the details up close. All right. So, as I was saying, I realized I no longer wanted to be in connections that drained me and tired me out. I wanted to be in relationships with people that would uplift me and nourish me, where we'd spend time together and I felt as though something was given to me and not taken away. I realized that I didn't want to continue to nourish relationships and connections that made me feel as though I was receiving less than I deserved. It took a lot of growth for me to make that decision and say, you know, enough is enough with this relationship. And that's essentially what this whole video is really about. Settling for less than we deserve, settling for things that aren't good for us, settling for things that aren't serving us, settling for things that don't even really make us feel good. So the first tip I would recommend is to start by determining what you truly want out of life. What do you truly want? You know, I think you want to start pretty broad here when you get to thinking about what you want out of life and the kind of life you would like to be living. What do I want? What am I looking for? Who do I want to be? And start asking yourself these questions, because that will allow you to really determine what it is you truly want. For me, it was as simple as saying, I want friendships that feel nourishing, wholesome, energizing, loving. So that's essentially the first step you want to take, is really, really, really determining what it is you want out of life. From there, you're going to want to determine your cycles. Where do you find yourself asking, why does this keep happening to me? Or how did I end up here again? When you start to get frustrated with yourself, when you're starting to recognize certain patterns that you have. And it's going to really require that you pay attention to your responses, yourself. You're going to need to develop a sense of awareness. A good way to do this for me has been journaling, because when I journal, I can always look back on how I responded to things in the past, how I was feeling about things in the past, how circumstances have been progressing. I can look back on those things and kind of note patterns as a result of journaling. So if that's something that you're interested in, journaling is a great way to develop a sense of self-awareness. because you really connect with yourself on a deeper level, and it allows you to really get all of your thoughts out on the page. Uh, so, recognizing those cycles, it will probably help to think about places where you feel stuck, lost, confused, or unhappy in your life. You've probably noticed that I've stopped painting, and that's just because I'm allowing what I've done so far to dry. And I can just kind of show you that I've started working on my eyes a little bit here, and I've darkened in this section here for where my nose will go, though I think I'll bring it down a little bit lower. And I've darkened in this section here for where my lips will go, just to kind of guide myself for later. Next thing that I would recommend is to determine where you can strengthen or establish boundaries with yourself and others. So, in some relationships, all that really needs to change is that boundaries need to be established. And if you can get the other person to respect your boundaries, then you should be golden. And you of course respect theirs. But one moment here. But if you can't, that can indicate that maybe that relationship isn't one that you want to continue to have with that person. If, of course, this boundary is really important to you and they're not able to respect that boundary, then it may be up to you to decide whether or not you want to continue to have that person in your life. But all situations and circumstances differ, and it all depends on what you're going through specifically. You'll also need to start thinking about where you can set boundaries with yourself. Sometimes we are unable to self-regulate or practice adequate self-care. So you'll need to start thinking about, where am I standing in my own way? How are you limiting yourself with your beliefs, with your actions? How are you self-sabotaging? And if you're interested in hearing a bit more about self-sabotage and my experience with it, then I can make a video about that in the future. Just let me know in the comments if you're interested in something like that. But yeah, if you know that you haven't been eating really healthy or working out, but you want to get summer ready, then of course you know that you're standing in your own way because you're not eating healthy, you're not working out. So you're going to need to think about the ways that you are limiting yourself and self-sabotaging. Also, start to think about the ways that other people's behavior triggers you, or triggers negative responses in you. How and why are these things triggers? Is going to be a good way for you to determine your boundaries and the boundaries that you want to set with other people. So the fourth step that I want to introduce here that I took was to start taking the steps to get what it was that I wanted in my life. But you want to commit to maybe doing 1 to 3 new things daily to replace old habits. So maybe you're somebody who has a really negative inner monologue. Start doing affirmations. Come up with a mantra for yourself. Start listening to a song that pumps you up every day and makes you feel confident. Maybe you want to, like I said, get summer ready. You start taking walks every day. Commit to doing 30 minutes of exercise. You want to just little changes every day. But remember that you have to focus on the here and now. The future isn't here yet. The past is already gone. It matters most what you're doing now. So if you focus on each day as it comes, take it day by day, little by little, and start small. Small changes lead to big changes, and then it leads you even closer to your goal. Which leads us into our next step. And the next step is something very crucial that I don't want you to forget. And that is to go easy on yourself. Go easy on yourself. Because you're just starting out. This is a new concept that you're learning. It's a new way of behaving and responding to the world. And you're gonna backslide. You're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. So don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, you're only human. Allow yourself to make mistakes and just do better next time. And lastly, a great thing to remember is practice gratitude. Just be grateful for where you are now. Be grateful for all that you've learned so far. Be grateful for as far as you've come and all that you've accomplished. And just be grateful for what you have in the here and now. You know, it was difficult to lose that relationship because this was someone who I really cherished and wanted to have in my life. It's in gratitude that I find strength to get through those challenging times. It was in gratitude that I was able to reflect on the quality of the friendships that I have now versus losing this one friend. It's absolutely fine to want better and to want more in your life. But what I mean is to hold space for the things that you currently have. Appreciate all that you have now, no matter how minor it may be, because it's in that space where you're going to find that strength to continue to move on. Recognizing the abundant nature of just being alive and being human sometimes, even if it is the simple things. I woke up this morning, I took a breath, I took a shower, I had a nice breakfast, I got to work safely. It's in those small things. So those are my tips and tricks. Of course, this is a pretty basic approach to it. It's a lot more than I can cover in a 20-minute video. I'm actually not done with my painting here. This is about as far as I got. So I'm going to finish this off camera and come back. All right, I am back, and I totally underestimated how long it was going to take me to complete this. But here is the finished product, and I'm totally in love. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I know some of you may be wondering why she doesn't have any glasses, but I don't like putting glasses on my self-portraits because I actually struggle with putting them on. I fear that if I attempt to put the glasses on, I could potentially ruin the painting. So I usually opt to do the self-portraits without glasses. But moving forward, I do want to go ahead and give it a try just to see what comes of it. But that's it for this video, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your support. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for more content from me. Thanks. Bye.